Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of a 2-part series. Today's video, we're going to finish off by putting on the rear rotor for my 2018 Triumph Bonneville Bobber Black. First things first, get your bobber on a paddock stand, and then you've got to loosen the tension bolt and the lock nut for the rear wheel. For this, you're going to need a 13mm wrench for the lock nut, and then you're going to need a 12mm wrench for the tension bolt. Make sure you loosen it up quite a bit. You want to give it a little bit of play once you loosen the axle bolt. I'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. Now, to get the wheel off, you're going to need a 27mm socket, and you're going to use it to loosen up the spindle nut. So before I remove the wheel, I put blocks of wood under the wheel so that when I take out the axle, the wheel only drops just a little bit. It takes off the pressure of me carrying the wheel. And as you know, these bikes, the wheels tend to be very heavy. To remove the wheel, all you got to do is use one hand, lift the wheel up slightly, and you should be able to pull the axle right out. From here, you should be able to push the wheel forward and give the chain a little bit of play so that you can get it off the sprocket. So as we move to the other side, we're going to remove the brake caliper from the back. And it's not bolted on in any way. It's actually a floating caliper, so pay attention to this because I did not video how to put it back on. So as you're taking it off, just sort of figure out exactly how it goes back on. You're going to need a solid platform to work on the wheels, so I'm going to use my old Avon tires. It's perfect because it's got a hole in the middle. I just rest the tire on top of it and the rear sprocket is lifted off the ground. Alright, let's get started. So before we can remove the rotor, we're going to remove the ABS ring first. So there's 4 bolts that you need to loosen up. And to do this, you're going to need a Torx bit 25 to loosen up these bolts. So just like the front rotors, Triumph has used a lot of Loctite on the ABS ring bolts and also the rear rotor bolts. So this is going to need a little bit of a cleanup. And to get the rear disc rotor off, you're going to need a Torx bit 40. And just remember, there's a lot of Loctite, so this is going to be pretty tight. These were hard. So much Loctite. Anxiety level 10 out of 10. Be very careful when you do this, when you're using the tapping tool. Make sure you don't damage the thread. You just want to do this to clean out the Loctite from the holes. So these bolts had a lot of Loctite on it, and because I'm going to reuse them again, I used a very small screwdriver and I scraped off the excess Loctite that were dried up in the threads. And just to make sure that all the bolts and all the holes were clear of Loctite, I tested them to make sure they could go in and out easily. Once again, a little bit of house cleaning. Usually when the rotors are on, it's hard to get to these areas, so since the rotors are off, why not? And here they are, the stars of the show, the Galfer wave rotors. I'm going to use Loctite 243, the blue color one. It's a medium strength, and I'm just going to apply it to each of these bolts. Just going to put a small dollop on it. Once again, when you start tightening the bolts onto the rotors, make sure that you use a crisscross pattern and torque it down to 22 Newton meters. I like to go around 2 times just to make sure that the torque settings are the same each time. Once you've done that, it's time to put the ABS ring back on. Make sure you use a little bit of Loctite on each of these screws as well. Again, make sure you use the crisscross pattern and torque it down to 9 Newton meters. So since the wheels were off the bike and on its side, I took the opportunity to repaint the Bridgestone on the sidewalls and also cleaned out the mud guard. So the only thing left to do is to get the wheel back onto the bike. So we're almost at the end of the video now, and if you made it this far, I'd like to say thank you for your support. And if you like the stuff that I produce, please like and subscribe to the channel. And leave me a comment if you feel like it. Other than that, let's get on with it and finish this job off. So this part is a little bit fiddly, but once you get it all set up, you should be okay. Get the chain back onto the sprocket and try to run the axle through. Like I said before, I forgot to video the other side where you put the brake caliper on, but when you were taking it off, you should have been able to sort of figure out how you are going to put it back on. Now you want to tighten up the spindle nut just a little bit, but don't torque it in yet until you get your chain tension all sorted out. Make sure that the tension on both sides are equal. And once you're happy with the chain tension on both sides, go ahead and tighten up the spindle nut. Torque it up to 110 Newton meters. And there you have it. The rear rotor is done and it looks simply awesome. I'll catch you guys next time.